share the screen, um, and we'll pretty much just work off of the websites for starters. But welcome to ODETTA Digital. And I think most of you guys are pretty familiar with what I've been doing over the last 10 months or so, 9 months. I launched ODETTA Digital back in June of last year, but I was asked to put together a group and create an online gallery of sorts to develop the SHIM Art Network on their Artsy page. Prior to that, SHIM Art Network, which is run by Peter Hopkins, they were most concerned about putting college groups into pop-up spaces, as well as taking people into art fairs down at Aqua Miami. And that is really, Peter Hopkins is the person that created SHIM, and his gallery assistant, Wilson Dugan, is responsible for the uploads onto the site. So this is where you'll start to see their names over the course of time. Hi, everyone that just joined in. If you don't mind, please mute yourself. Linda, Barbara. Thanks. Very good. All right. So it's been 3 different quarters where I've had artists join in. Hi, Cindy. When you come in, please mute yourself. Okay. So we launched with our first exhibition was about 40 new members, and we all just dove into the pool together. And that exhibition you can see on the Artsy pages in our past exhibitions was called Sea Change. The second show was called Pandemic Proof, because as a gallerist, I was really interested in knowing how to create exhibition space that made me feel safe around people during the pandemic, as well as visitors feel safe. So how do we do that? Well, you're seeing all of those iterations through ODETTA and other entities online. It's been a fantastically busy year learning how to create virtual space that has a meaningful expression for artists and a meaningful connection to people. Cindy, hi.
Hi, Ellen.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. Would you please mute yourself for now, and we'll unmute in a little bit. And I'm recording for any of you newcomers. So we started the 3rd exhibition, which is up now, is called Essential Works. And the 4th quarter, my first full year, will open in mid-March. And that exhibition, the artists all said, let's do something with works on paper for the homepage to try and pull everyone together. So I'm calling that exhibition Page Turner. So if you do join ODETTA Digital, have at least one of your images be a work on paper. It could be a sculpture made out of paper. It could be a collage where the dominant material is paper. It could be a photograph. So it could be an artist's book. So it could be anything where paper is essentially the substrate. And so that will be Page Turner. All of the exhibitions are 1 quarter in length, so 3 months long. And what we're learning is that it works best to try and create a surge of attention as we open our exhibitions. And I've been creating this surge with all of us working together, and we share the same posts and we share the same link in our bio on Instagram. And I'll get into all of that training when we have the membership formed. So after February 28th. For all you need to worry about now is if you're joining is to fill out the membership application, upload 4 images, and then we'll worry about Instagram after. But with ODETTA Digital, I'm going to cap my members coming in at 100 members. For a full year, it's been a really busy year, but I didn't want to not give people an opportunity to put their legs under them in this virtual world. And so I feel like I'm sort of the Ellis Island right now for the SHIM Art Network. And my real hope is that as people grow up on this platform and in this registration, they'll find that they've got groups of their own that they want to create a gallery kind of a space or an artist collective within. So that's my goal, is just to teach people how to get onto the site and then let them start to self-identify and organize after the first few months of trying it out. So now I'm going to share the screen and just go to the SHIM Art Network site. I guess I've got to pull this up first. Let's see. And as I said, for those of you that came on a little bit after 7, I'm recording. If you have questions, put them into the chat. So if you haven't been on the site, this is the SHIM Art Network site. Actually, Peter Hopkins created SHIM about 6 years ago. And as I had said, introducing it, that he was really more focused on physical space, as everybody was. But when the pandemic separated all of us back into our small, safe place, it was obvious to him that the MFA candidates that were getting ready to graduate had no set avenue for exhibitions of their MFAs. So he got interested in helping those students out and then reached out to me to ask me to help put those students onto the SHIM Art Network. And what I found was it was actually easier because the advisors in the university settings wanted to wait and see what the university could do for the students. They were scrambling too with Zoom. And ultimately, a lot of schools did give their students an MFA exhibition online. So they did come through for the students, but those that were seeking another avenue ended up on the SHIM exhibitor group, which is called SHIM Emerge. So here on the left is how to join. And with how to join, there's a few ways to go. I've sent you guys all the direct link to ODETTA Digital, but there's different groups for artists, for curators, and for galleries and organizations. For example, Linda Cunningham running Bronx Art Space. Galleries and organizations might be a good opportunity for you to bring in your artists that are supporting Bronx Art Space to come on to the Artsy Network at a very low cost. Curators and collectives, same way. Artists, it's a 1-year application. And the one that I sent you is identical to this. The second area is exhibitor groups. When you're a curator or you run an organization, you might go to that application and fill it out, and it will give you then an outline. Let me go back to that join page for a second. it's a shorter questionnaire, but it gives you a chance to talk about what your Instagram account handle would be, and you would want to find out that it's one that's not already taken, that it would be unique to your group, your website for that organization. So Cindy, for example, if it was the Printmaking Collective out of Norwalk Contemporary Center for Contemporary Printmaking, there might be a website for that, as well as a mission statement for that group. And then you give a little more information about the group leader, and it gets submitted to the SHIM Art Network, and they consider whether or not you're eligible for becoming a group. And if you're thinking about forming a group, you would want to have at least 8 members, I think, to start it, just so you've got enough for solid exhibitions as you move through your year of 4 quarters. There's different commission rates that group connectors can, the organizer can take. I take a 30% commission as ODETTA Digital, but it ranges. So this is another area where you, the organizer, or the people that are organizing with you, can determine how to set up the group for your artists. You can also determine what the membership fee is, because you may be giving more services like I do, and you might want to charge a little bit more for that in order to make a small amount for yourself for the hours that you put into organizing people. Let's see here. At this point, we have about 15 exhibitor groups. They're from all over the world now. What Peter Hopkins and I think is that the SHIM Art Network has the potential, with the way that their account is set up on Artsy, to become basically a library registration for artists worldwide, where they are on a well-known platform where the work is available for sale. But more importantly, their data is searchable because there's now a URL pointing to them, and they're in a network. And if you're working with me, I try to make the networks talk to each other, the different connector groups, so that you get to know who your neighbors are. It may be after you're with ODETTA Digital for the first year, you may want to go over into another exhibition group, and that's perfectly fine. And again, you may want to form your own. So these are the various groups, and all of us have active websites. And this all ends up on Artsy. So Art Helix, that was Peter Hopkins' gallery. Some of you may have gone to some of their shows over the years. He was in Bushwick when I met him. But over the course of time, we all got basically squeezed out of our galleries. The rent prices really drove us out. So I know you guys saw me moving around from Chelsea to Harlem, now to Greenwich. So it's kind of a moving target, avoiding rent. Now I'm rent free, and I couldn't be happier. So coming on to essential works. Let's see here. So right now, these are the current shows, and I opened mine. This is the 3rd show, December 11th, and it'll come to a close on March 11th. In this exhibition, there are approximately 68 artists, and I know that sounds crazy. Certainly not something that I see as a long-range plan, but the thing I feel most comfortable with right now is that I'm a bit of a gatekeeper in this paradigm. So I just want to let the flow open and let people self-sort over time. So with every artist, they submit 4 images to the template that I sent you guys the link to, and I'll go there next. But I just want to give you the images on artists. Each of your 4 images should be a good photograph. Please give us your best photography in all cases, all the time, because this is a national, international platform that's advertising at a very low rate for you. So make it your best. Each artist, in addition to their image on the home page, which I compose, that's why I've asked for all of the images to come in at the end of, by the end of February. So I've got 2 weeks to sort of organize everything and make sure that the home page reads well. But again, our home page should all be works on paper this time. When you're interested in an artist, when you click on their name, it'll bring you to their other images that they've uploaded, not just with SHIM, but with other galleries too. In the case of Leslie Kirby, she has other galleries that she's working with on Artsy as well. And that's okay. You just don't want to necessarily duplicate the same work. And you, the artist, need to start keeping really good records about where your work is. If somebody were to purchase this work, they would contact or make an offer to the gallery. That email would come into me from SHIM. They would let me know, and then I would reach out to that interested buyer and make that connection, answer any questions if they're ready to buy. I then have the artist go get a quote on shipping, any packaging costs and shipping costs. You have to be able to give me a receipt for all of that. And then I quote the buyer the shipping as well. Once they purchase, you, the artist, get it packed and delivered, and I reimburse you on any of your shipping and packaging costs. As soon as the buyer receives the work, just like my work on First Dibs, I give them 7 days to really commit. If they choose to return, there's a 7-day window there, and they would return to you at their cost and at the same level of insurance that you paid out to get the work to them. So, so that everybody learns that they can start to trust and enjoy the online marketplace. I don't want to offer work that's not returnable at this early stage of online marketing. For somebody like Leslie Kirby, as you scroll down the page, you'll see the full portfolio that she has on Artsy. Every quarter, you're going to upload, and you'll be uploading 4 images so that by the end of the first year, you have 16 images on Artsy. When people scroll down and look at the page, they see more information on the gallery that was supporting that work. So this work of Leslie's is on SHIM. So as somebody is looking up Leslie Kirby's work and what else she has, other works by Leslie Kirby, but they can also see what's on the whole SHIM Art Network. So the crazy thing about Artsy is that you're probably in a sea of probably at least 6 million works of art by now on Artsy worldwide. So that's a little daunting. How does the work become searchable? How is it discoverable? At this point, I'm finding that I've been asking artists to do a launch with me on Instagram, and we point to the exhibition on Artsy by using our link in the bio for the exhibition. For example, the URL here would be the link that you would put in the bio on your Instagram page when we're in those launches. And while that feels a little counterintuitive that you're not pointing to your own website, it's only for the launch. It's temporary. But then you can revert back to your own website, and you certainly can link to your website by tagging your photos. And I'll go through all of that with you when we're gearing into the launch, which will be around March 11th. Now I just wanted to go to that template for signing up. So this is the application page. Some artists have video work, so we're starting to offer an opportunity for that to be uploaded as well. Most of you are really well acquainted with different kinds of grant applications and exhibition competitions. So this is very much boilerplate. 4 images, one at a time. When you get into this dimension metric, we go with inches, but they end up posting both inches and centimeters. Likewise, we go with the US dollar. Is this artwork part of a series? Very often the answer is yes. So you might mention what the title of that series is. Here we go with editions. If it's part of an edition, what the edition size is. Photographers have, you know, a myriad of ways nowadays that they're sizing and offering editions of their prints. And this can help you at least identify some of the avenues for that for a buyer. And then you could even put into that particular listing, for more inquiries, contact the gallery, and I would have that information. Browsing your files to get your images uploaded. What they suggest is that you have it be a 5 megabyte maximum or 1,000 by 1,000 pixels maximum, or minimum, sorry. 1,000 by 1,000 pixels minimum, 5 megabytes maximum. JPEGs only. Oh no, or PNG, sorry. I knew I was gonna get hung up on that. They've asked for a specific way to label your work. And then on through the 4. As you come into the end of the application, which really, if you've got your images all together, should be no more than a half hour. Then you sign your terms of agreements, terms of service. Please open that up, give it a good look. There it is. Of course, it's like any legal document. So do the best you can. Where am I? Here. And then this question, do you authorize ODETTA to negotiate on your behalf? And for how much? This is something very similar to what my consignment forms have been at the gallery. I usually ask that you allow me up to 10%. Some people feel comfortable with up to 20%, but to negotiate the price for you without having to get your approval if I've got a serious buyer. I have to say, I've been working really hard with everyone on laying the groundwork for this to be your first approach to developing your market yourself and identifying your price points. So many of the price points you'll see on ODETTA Digital are under $1,000, oftentimes under $500. The artists are doing this because we want to know who our buyers are, but those prices should be consistent with anything else in your scope of where you're posting, how you're marketing your work. Keep it consistent. Those of you that are coming in new would be, I'm a new member, and that would pull you into a payment of $125 for the year. That gives you 16 uploads and regular meetings and Zooms with me and the other members. So you'll enter into the network, and I think you'll find it's very robust. I've been amazed at how well I've gotten to know people that I have not met in person yet. It's been a really good year, and everybody is very eager to succeed and carry their work forward in spite of the pandemic. So the last page I want to take you to is Instagram. Instagram is something that everybody, including myself, you just have to constantly practice with it. It seems to me like they've got this overzealous web department that slightly nuances and changes the uploads, at least on my phone. So I'm forever struggling with Instagram, but stay with it. It's a great advertising tool. And what we're doing as 3 members of the SHIM Art Network, we're branching off into the Fair Share Art Auction, and we're trying to develop an auction for people that, again, starts to show us who are our buyers, where are they coming from, what are they interested in, so that we can develop a list of buyers and collectors. So the Fair Share Art Auction, I did not invite you guys into that. I invited ODETTA Digital members, but we're hoping to do 2 a year. So be sure and check out Fair Share. We're gonna launch it on the 19th. And if you see something you wanna buy, bid on it. We are doing bid increments of $10. So it gets pretty fun. You'll see people really going after certain pieces. We give half of the proceeds of any sale to the charity of the buyer's choice. Once they donate that half to the charity, they provide the receipt to the artist that proves that they paid already half for the charity, along with the final payment for the artist. And again, the artist ships the work to them. A lot of you guys are on my Instagram feeds and see a lot of what I do. On this row here, we're into the Essential Works exhibition. And I ask members, this is part of the networking and the community building. I ask members to co-curate one another within our group and do posts of multiple images, either combined through photo booth or carousel showing multiple images. When we do a launch, and again, I'll teach you guys all about it, we do a combined common list of hashtags and the link in bio to the exhibition. These are all from Essential Works, so I'm pretty pretty regularly posting as we're launching. Trying to find one that's a carousel. Here we go. So this is one that I put together. Whoop. That's too bad. Oh, let's try this. Okay, that's all Deborah Perlman. Sorry. Hang on. Okay. So when I do the combination images, or anytime there's an image post, I tag it with the artist's name and then leading to how are people going to purchase. So artsy, artist name, ODETTA Gallery, anything that'll help guide somebody to how to purchase. Oh, it did that again. Doggone. SHIM Art Network, Melissa Rubin. So the artist name. So this is something where I'll be asking you guys to share your time with one another and connect with the visual vocabulary that speaks to you most. And I find that when I hand over the curatorial steering wheel to artists, they realize pretty quickly that the language is very interesting then, that they see the connections in their work, and the gears start turning about how one might collaborate. I think if anything, coming out of this pandemic, we're all going to be collaborating, sharing information, and really building up the data that backs our work, because that will be our 4 white walls, is the data that we build in virtual space. It will not be solely physical space any longer. Even for sculptors, you've got to have a digital backing for your work anymore. You simply have to do it if you want to be seen. And in fact, it's really a good thing when it comes to following up on something with like a catalog raisonné as you move on through your career. Just make sure I've covered everything I wanted to say before I open it up for questions. Okay, I'm gonna stop the screen share for a minute. Okay, are we seeing one another? You guys can all unmute now. You can unmute. Thank you so much for being so polite. Okay, so the first question, all works on paper need to be framed? No, they can be unframed. You would offer it and list it as unframed. And that's one of the questions on the template. When you see the price that you give me, when you see it posted online, it'll actually be higher. There's a few fees that SHIM takes for administrative work up front. So if it's a $300 work of art, it will show up as maybe 400, something like that. Once those expenses are paid off when I close the sale, you and I end up at a net of the 300. And if you spent money on shipping, you would have that receipt, and I would reimburse you 70% commission plus your shipping and handling costs. And generally speaking, I've been having people purchase with either a credit card, PayPal, or a direct deposit. Rarely am I getting checks anymore in the mail. But in all cases, once I receive the payment, I do a pretty good job of record keeping and invoicing, and you'll have a copy of everything. Okay, questions? You can
I have a question.
unmute. You can unmute. Yeah, Connie?
Oh, yes. Paintings on watercolor paper, does that meet the what you're looking for?
Yes.
Yes, okay, just checking.
Works on paper. What we're doing with the works on paper, generally speaking, I ask artists with their 4 images to put things into 4 price points. So the first price point ideally is up to $500. The second price point would be up to $1,200. And then if your work goes higher, you might be a sculptor or an installation artist. Give us your best and don't worry about the top end of the price. There's a buyer for any price point. It's just that I want you to offer things that are also under 1,000 just to get the ball rolling with your collectors. More questions?
Size, do you find any do you need to worry about pieces being oversized as far as shipping, or that's
really your call, Cindy. The answer is no. I've had works in the thousands of dollars, canvas that got shipped to California from New York. And it was a beautiful work of art. And we decided that the most cost-effective way to go was the white glove delivery, which I get that service also through First Dibs. So I was familiar with white glove. The artist got the quote, got me the quote. I quoted the buyer and she took it to white glove. They packed it. And so I reimbursed her for that full service and it arrived safely. That canvas, I believe, was 60 by 40 and at least 4 inches thick on the side stretcher. So it was a sizable work.
okay?
I have a question.
Good.
You mentioned keeping track of your works, where they are in terms of posting with you. Is there restrictions on what you're showing concurrently, or like say I have a piece that was listed with you for the first quarter and 3 quarters later, and I show it somewhere else, do I have to let you know? Like, how does all that work?
No, I'm pretty hands off with ODETTA Digital. I've got to say, it's good to know where it is in case a buyer inquires. But for example, let's say that you give me 4 images from your current show. And while it's hanging in Texas, it ends up that 2 pieces get sold after we launch Page Turner. That's not a problem. You just tell us it was sold, but that piece is still advertising for you. What we don't want is a duplication of the work on the Artsy site for you with 2 different entities. And I've found that that is happening sometimes with some artists. So I've got to repeat that for this next quarter, is to try and give yourself a full spread of work between the different galleries or art organizations that you're working with. The crazy thing about Artsy and online markets in general is that the work stays on and it just stays on. So it's really important that the artists know where their work is, whether it's been sold, and you just keep me up to date on that.
Okay, thanks.
And I don't have an exclusive agreement with any artist on this site. For me, we all got thrown into COVID. This is something we all are learning together. So I take a pretty democratic view of the whole thing. There was a question. Was that you, Judith?
No, but I do have a question for this Page Turner exhibition. Do you feel that everything that an artist puts in into that should be from a kind of the same body of work, as opposed to, putting something in that might be from 10 years ago and might be very different from what I'm doing now, along with newer things.
I think in all cases, whether it's a work from 10 years ago or a work now, it should be the best representative work from that series with the best image resolution of that work of art. That's the part that needs to be consistent. Your photo quality should be consistent and it should be high, because you're paying basically nothing for advertising now. So put the money into professional photography and
Right.
make sure that your portfolio is super strong. I do think, though, for me personally, I'm an artist. I've got a page on here too. I do think that it's important that for me to be consistent within each quarter. So I try to show a similar kind of approach to the work or color saturation. And then the next quarter, I might do something slightly different.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Ellen, I have a question. As I read through the SHIM and the application, I believe there was a place for you to put your website. Will that also be listed with your image at all?
I don't believe that it is. I could pull up that screen share, but I don't recall ever having seen my website, but I think SHIM wants to know that you have one.
Okay.
It's sort of a vetting
Yeah.
question.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to clarify. I'm not sure if I understood. So if something is sold, the image stays up.
Yes,
Okay.
but it's now marked sold,
Mhm.
which, as you well know, that's kind of a motivator for a buyer.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
And- yeah.
sales are going pretty well for me, surprisingly. I say that because about 4 or 5 years ago, I was running ODETTA on both First Dibs and Artsy, and I wasn't getting a single sale on Artsy. And so I finally let the account go. It was very expensive to run it as an individual gallery. And so I'm finding that this Instagram linking must be the reason, as well as the group sort of call to action that we'll be doing with these launches. I think both of those things are really motivating and they do result in sales. I will admit the bulk of the sales that I've encountered so far are under $1,000. But that's good. You get a little money in your pocket and you feel like, okay, well, I totally took care of the membership fee for the year. So how else can I invest in my career? What else should I be doing? Where else do I want my work to go? So I think most artists are really happy with a 70% commission. And the fact that that requires you to take a little more leadership role in executing and helping close the sale by handling the shipping information.
I'm also very curious about what you said when you led into this, about that you sort of saw yourself as a clearinghouse for other networks. And so I sort of have two questions about that. Like, seeing yourself as that, as like helping people like get their toe in the system, that do you have any particular focus for your own sort of like real estate within it? That's the one question. And then the second question is, for another network to be started, can you give a little bit of an idea of the time work that it takes? I mean, it seems like you're doing a tremendous amount of work.
Well, I've got the largest group of members, and I also was asked to lead, manage sales. Although I have to say, Peter manages a lot of sales. But in a perfect world, 3 years from now, I don't know that ODETTA will have 100 members, but I see ODETTA Digital as being still a way for artists to enter. I've found great pleasure in the fact that I don't have 4 walls or 12 months limiting me on a calendar anymore. Now I can take on photography. I can take on representational art. When you're composing exhibition after exhibition, you have to go with something that's consistent within the room. And that's wonderful, but it limited me as a viewer and a person handling art, because you can't have this many genres and this many artists going in a single gallery space anywhere. You just, it'd be impossible. So I see this as the beginning for me as an art dealer and a curator on this platform. And I'm going to probably give it 2 years to just really see what I like and what I don't like about numbers and how I want to shape it. But I do see ODETTA Digital as being a gateway for people. I do vet though. I mean, I don't ask everyone in, and I don't accept everyone that comes that doesn't know ODETTA. And I do try to make referrals to some of the other connector groups that are accepting members. I do want consistency across the platform.
Oh, if we know another artist, should we recommend them to you or tell them to email you, or?
Sure. Or in the case of June, she brought her friend Judith on tonight. So go ahead and send me an email tomorrow with their contact and them CC'd, and we'll pick it up from there if you like. Yeah.
Ellen, every 3 months you say we're going to change. It's up to us to then submit 4 new images.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what happens on Artsy is we're doing it on a quarterly basis, because then you're refreshing your page. And by the time you get then 10 images uploaded, it starts to become searchable on Artsy. Less than 10, not so much. So it's about building a database about your work. And so we like that regular interval of uploads.
Great. Thanks.
I'm gonna wrap it up at 8 o'clock. If there's no other questions, let me just check the chat. See, okay, so someone just left. And so, listen, you guys, any questions, send me an email, and please don't hit reply all because then it's like a sink into a rabbit hole and I can't find it anymore. But it's lovely to see you all. And I have to say, we did, it's hard to put a big group together on a Zoom. So I want to do a party that lets us break into breakout rooms at a certain point. But I find I tried to do that at the holidays and everyone wanted to just stay in the main party. Kind of like when I throw a party, everyone stays in the kitchen. So, I don't quite know how to corral us all, but I will say this. I did do, in the middle of the pandemic last year, I did a SHIM party for members. We had about 24 people that came on just to have a drink together, a happy hour, and hang out in this quarantine craziness. And what I found in asking people, well, what, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I found that there were some key themes that came through consistently. And one was the intersection of art and science. Another was nature. Another was environment. Another was climate change. Another was artist books. Another was color theory. Another was sculpture. So it was really interesting that I could, within that meeting, I could have created 5 strong curated shows from that group. And that was just 24 of us. And I just find this interesting, how we can organize and self-select. So we'll have to, as a group, work together to make those kinds of goals happen. And I think SHIM is a very open platform. If you have an idea of how to organize images, you just throw it to me and I'll talk to Peter and Wilson and see how we can help you make it happen. But I would encourage all of you to let yourselves be leaders. I opened ODETTA. Nobody knew me, you know, it was a long held dream and I did it. Feel free to lead. It's a good thing. And especially now. Question?
No, just.
Ellen, just a quick question. We'd be applying to ODETTA Digital, which is part of SHIM Art Network. Is that correct? And that's hosted by Artsy. Is that how it works?
No, not exactly. You're close. SHIM is hosting on Artsy.
Okay.
Artsy is the platform that they're paying for.
Mhm.
And so you are applying to ODETTA Digital
Right.
within the SHIM Art Network.
Within
And
the SHIM.
Artsy is just the platform of choice right now. But what's fascinating about what Peter did is he asked Artsy, is there any limit to how many artists we can have on our account? And they said no. And he goes, well, what if it's 7,000? They said, well, that would be kind of interesting. How are you going to do that? And he said, well, I think I'm working on it. You know, so Artsy is a very interesting place to get started. You know, it's kind of limitless at this point. That's what we're finding. Okay, I'm going to stop recording if that's okay with everybody. I'll just stop that.
Thanks, Ellen.